And I love how you call me a frequent flyer and you have clouds behind you. And I see familiar faces. Welcome back. It's great to see everyone again. And I see new faces. Perhaps you've seen this on YouTube, or maybe this is your first time ever joining. So just a quick rundown. If you're new here, first of all, welcome and thanks. I talk for a little bit and then we write, and then at the end we reconvene is basically it. During the talking time, anyone can like chime in or add to the conversation. I usually invite that. And then during the writing time, which will be obvious that that's the time, we'll all mute and take the time to ourselves before coming back. So recently, I've been thinking a lot about clutter. Um, I like So I kind of like war with myself on this because I like a simple, clean space. I like less in my calendar, but I'm also an artist and a writer, and that means lots of things. And, sometimes it gets a bit messy. And then with migraine, as many of you have likely experienced yourself, if you're not feeling well reliably, things can pile up. I've had dishes pile up, or to-do lists pile up, or like having to defer my taxes that 6 months, all that kind of stuff during rough periods of time. So what has helped me is to minimize excess clutter as much as I can. And that's not necessarily always physical clutter, but it could be mental clutter or emotional clutter. And I wanted to read something, and I'll put a link when I'm done reading it in the chat, just in case anyone wants to refer to it. But it's from theminimalists.com and it's called What is Clutter? Our clutter isn't relegated only to material things. Sure, we own too much stuff. Too many shirts and pants and shoes and bags. Too many coffee cups and kitchen utensils. Too many magazines and books and outdated technology. Too much excess that clutters every corner of our homes. But we also clutter our lives with destructive relationships, careers, obligations, rituals, busyness, minutia, news, media, politics, gossip, drama, rumors. We clutter our attention with glowing screens. We clutter our creativity with distractions. We clutter our free time with trivialities. We clutter our desires with attachments. Our lives are brimming with existential clutter, emotional clutter, mental clutter, spiritual clutter. So much so that it's hard to distinguish what is clutter and what's not. We are stressed out, overwhelmed, and anxious because we've filled our lives with disorder, chaos. Although there is another way. Look at an object, a commitment, a habit. Does it enhance your tranquility or increase your well-being? That's all you need to ask. If the answer is no, it's okay to let it go. Now, that may not be an easy path, but it is a simple one. So today I'm inviting you to write about what clutter in your life is maybe come up as something that is not enhancing your life. Just explore that a little bit. You can also go in the other direction and focus on something that is enhancing your life. But I just am inviting you to explore what the theme of clutter and how some type of letting go might give you a little bit more peace or tranquility. I'm going to give us about 10 minutes. I'll give a 1-minute warning when it's time to wrap up thoughts, and then we'll have about 10 minutes to discuss or share.
I'm sorry, I had to leave for a second. What was the assignment?
Oh, no problem. So we're exploring
I know
what,
clutter. Yeah, right.
yeah, yeah, and you can refer to the essay. I just linked it in the chat if that's helpful. Have about a minute to wrap up our thoughts. Okay. I want to invite everyone to come back with the realization that sometimes 10 minutes is really just getting started. So if you want to keep writing, go for it. If you want to write more after this, go for it. But now is a good time if anyone wants to share if anything maybe surprising came out of their writing or any realizations. Um, or you could share if you were stuck, really anything you're welcome to share. Hey, Jim.
I found my list quite interesting because it probably has something that many people may have not even considered. And part of that is due to some of my training in the last several years.
Mhm.
But some of the things is, first of all, my fix-it mentality.
Mhm.
That creates clutter because some things need to get fixed, yet I concentrate on it. The things need to be. Sometimes my personal values are actually clutter because they may be unrealistic. So it's time to let some of that go or modify them to something that is more realistic. Self-worth can be a clutter because of the fact that it may be based on previous experiences that no longer exist, such as childhood uh, adversities. Uh, and your history,
Mhm.
unreasonable expectations that you have expectations that are just not practical or reasonable, and you keep thinking about them.
Yeah.
Uh, to go back to some of my ACT training, the passengers on the bus, where you carry things with you that interfere with your ability to do things or affect how you approach things. That my pain therapist refers to those as passengers on your bus.
Ah.
Time to get rid of them. News, email,
Mhm.
apps I never use, old files and documents, and people adversities is clutter. Sometimes you just have to let those relationships go.
Yeah.
So I'll shut up and give other people more time, but that is primarily my list, which
Thank
might be
you.
a little bit different than others.
I love how it includes a lot of emotional, psychological, like, non-tangible things.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of it's going on between like these 6 inches.
but getting rid of that stuff can give you a new approach to life, change your paradigm, and make
Mhm.
life a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to share? Jamie was saying Jim was spot on.
I can share.
All right, Heidi, then Kelly.
I'm just gonna read mine, which, obviously it's a draft.
Right, right.
Right now, one of the largest potential sources of clutter in my life is trying possible migraine treatments. It seems that very few days have passed in the last 15 years when I wasn't experimenting with a treatment, testing to see if my migraine symptoms would become less severe, less frequent, or less numerous, testing to see if I could tolerate the side effects, afford the economic expense, endure the emotional roller coaster. I want to feel better, and there has been little hope of that beyond finding a or a combination of effective treatments. But having tried over 140 different things, I'm exhausted. My life is cluttered by the experience and clouded by experiences that do not bring me joy and don't deliver on increasing my well-being. It is hard for me to not contemplate just giving up, not on life or the hope of getting better, but to get off this path that seems to be taking me away from what matters, not bringing me closer to it.
I see a very sparkly heart from Jamie's,
Yeah.
which is, I think, it's, I don't even have words because it's like, because of the nature of what we go through, it feels like we're always searching, and that's like so exhausting
Mhm.
sometimes.
Takes a
So,
lot of energy.
Yeah,
So much, energy and everything, like
Right.
physical, emotional, and
Yeah.
everything else. It's just so consuming. And
Mhm.
I really try to balance it so that that doesn't take over my life, but I can't control the side effects and things, I can't control how much stuff costs. And sometimes it really does take over.
Yeah. Even if you don't want it to, even like, and like, I don't know about you, Heidi, but for me, it'll be just like one little thing will set it off, like it'll be like, all right, I'm managing. And then like a unfair, call from your insurance company. And then you're like, ah.
I don't know. For me, I just feel like it's been constant.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people try things and have success. I'm just not in that category. So I just keep running into this brick wall.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the name of feeling better. But it doesn't actually make me feel better. So it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
you used a word that strikes me as the most important in all that you're discussing, which is the word balance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that will, for me, that helps mitigate the unreasonable expectations,
Yeah, for me,
which is associated with that.
the expectations aren't really the thing. It's more than anything, it's the side effects. Like you're hoping to feel better, but you end up feeling worse. And this is more on my mind this week because I just tried a procedure and I feel worse, at least for now. Maybe I'll feel better next week. But do you just stop trying? I don't know.
No,
So
what I do is I read the literature and see what the ultimately what the clinical use is before I'll even think about trying something, to find out how effective it is for other people before I'll try and get involved with any kind of a treatment. Because a lot of these things, they look great when they're first released, but after they're really used in the public area, turns out they're not so good.
definitely.
So that's how I achieve my balance with that, because and just use the tool and try and focus on the tools, especially the mindfulness and other exercises that work for me. It's not get rid of it, but it helps reduce it and minimize it.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Jim. Anyway, enough about that, I think. I know Kelly wanted to share.
That's
and
okay.
Jamie does too.
Jamie has her hand raised.
I just wanted to say real quick, like over the years, I've gone through that where I just am like, I just can't go through all the things that that it takes to try one more thing right now. And what has helped me in the past is to set like a check-in point several months out and then just not look stuff up, not pursue anything, not try anything, and just take that break. And then however far out in a few months, like have a reminder in your phone, have an accountability partner or somebody to just kind of check in and say like, am I ready to move forward? How am I feeling right now? And then whenever you've like gathered your forces to be able to move forward, then you can move forward. If you're not ready at that time, set it out a few more months. And that way you don't I would get caught in, if I stop trying right now, like what will cause me to get back on to try something again. I didn't want to get stuck in never trying. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 3 months off, check back in, and then see if I'm ready again. And sometimes it was like a year-long break, and sometimes it was only a few months. But that way you can more fully release because you've already outsourced making the decision to check back in. So maybe that'll help. But you're not alone. Definitely not alone.
I like that
Thank
idea.
you.
It sounds like a vacation. I mean, other people, a vacation would be different, but for me, that sounds like, a true vacation.
And Heidi, if you need a accountability partner, any one of us would be happy to be that for you. All right, I want to make sure Kelly has
That's
two
okay.
nice
Anybody
dogs,
else?
Ann.
No, because I don't have to go. So I would like the other participants to be able to share.
Well, Kelly, why don't you go and then I'll make
Okay,
sure.
no, we're gonna let Melissa. She raised her hand.
Okay.
I was just going to say, when I think of clutter, I think of the physical aspects. And as you pointed out with Jim, it's so much, even in the quote, there's more to it than the physical. But in the last few years, so I had a career break of 8 years and just went back to work 2.5 months ago. But I started with the process of eliminating the physical clutter in my house and removing all of that, doing the emails, the social media, cutting down the number of friends on Facebook, and then started with some of those other like social elements, but I didn't realize that the physical clutter, removing that was just giving me momentum. So even setting like just those 3 tasks for the day versus me sitting in bed and suffering or focusing on the migraine was what kind of helped me get started. And then I started on the social and emotional. And I told myself, get up, get dressed, even if it was, more just pajamas and stuff like that, but get up, get dressed, and take a try at the day. And even if the task was, taking my dishes downstairs, it was still something. And then trying to do some of the other social work and emotional, and getting over some of the fears of, what happens if I start a job and I have migraines 27 or 28 days every single month. What if I start a job and it doesn't work out or I fail? There's so many fears and what ifs, but the thing I kept telling myself is, what if it does work out? What if everything works out and you show up with accommodation where, you don't have to go for a job that you had 10 years ago where you're running circles around people. There are jobs now, especially after COVID, where you work part-time or you work at a slower pace, etc. So I just want to kind of stress that, and that it's possible to, once you do some of those things, it can make a huge impact. So thank you for the exercise.
You're welcome, Melissa, and thanks
Right,
for sharing your
Melissa.
story and how it directly related to your situation with migraine. Yeah, and then I like what Calais said. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but that, decluttering the space equals decluttering your mind, and it sounds like that's exactly what happened for you.
Yeah.
I am going to go a couple minutes late. If people need to go, that's fine. But I see at least one other hand raised, so I want to make,
Christine.
yeah.
Mhm. Thank you guys so much for this event. It was so nice to hear all of your reflections on all of those different psychological issues related to migraine. I myself was just thinking about physical possession, so you guys all went a lot deeper than I thought about. But I guess I have two little pieces of advice regarding physical possessions, just like you were talking about cleaning out stuff. Number one is for those of us who spend a lot of time in bed, I think it's really important to have the surroundings be as beautiful as possible. Plants, art, crystals, photos of the family. When we're in bed so much, I think it's really important to have a lot of beauty around us to, look at and give us hope. And then the other thing is when we buy new purchases, to try to make them be as beautiful as possible. And a quick migraine example, I don't know, probably a lot of you guys do the same thing that I do, and I keep a cooler next to my bed when I sleep, and I've got my ice caps layered in between ice packs. So recently I had to replace it because the cooler was just falling apart and the ice packs were leaking all that blue stuff. So when I went to replace it, I wanted to buy the most beautiful items possible. So I got this gorgeous pink cooler and the little ice packs, like all these beautiful pastels. So it's just like a tiny example where, we have to have this medical equipment. It may as well bring us as much joy as possible choosing beautiful colors. So that's, just a little bit of advice to try to surround ourselves with beauty. And we have to buy medical equipment to make it as beautiful as possible, just to kind of brighten our day. So just that.
I love that, Christine, and I wish hospitals did that more often too. Hey, sweetie, I'll be there in just a minute. My daughter's coming. You can just come join, okay?
Hi.
I saw Diane had unmuted before, and I wanted to make sure, Diane, if you had something to say.
I'm Olivia.
Olivia, we're gonna listen right now. Okay, can you use your ears? Okay.
I guess I'm just what I heard some people saying that, and what came to mind before I got involved with Miles for Migraine and some of the other things, where I feel like I took a shift recently of in the past I felt like I lost so much time to migraines. It almost angered me when I had to spend time reading about migraines and reading about treatments and evaluating things and spending any more time on migraines than I already was losing to them. But I think one of the things, it's such a double-edged sword, because I feel like in some ways it's given me a sense of empowerment, because I've been able to advocate more for myself. I know Miles for Migraines is all about advocacy, and I feel really fortunate that I have a really good migraine headache clinic that has multiple practitioners. I've got a headache physical therapist, and I feel so fortunate to have all these tools at my hand. And so even then, I still feel like, well, why do I have to spend time, doing things like this? But in some ways, I feel like it keeps, to speak to maybe what Jim said about balance. It's good to have an environment where I can talk about these things, because I feel like a lot of times I don't want to talk about people in my world who don't have health issues, because I feel like they just feel like, oh yeah, Diane always talking about her migraines. And so this is kind of a world that can live in. And I'm also speaking from a place right now where I've had some personal things going on, and my migraines have taken a dive. But the last year, there have been some things that I've had a lot of. I still have a goal of getting better, but I've had a lot better quality of life in the last year. So I feel like in some ways, I feel like I shouldn't get on a soapbox, because I feel like I'm in a really fortunate place. But in some ways, I think like a symposium I went to a couple weeks ago of running into people who are on all different areas of the spectrum of migraine, worse than me, better than me, one treatment, 140 treatments. It's so nice to kind of walk into it. So often you can feel like other in so many areas of your life, and it's kind of nice to have an environment where you don't you might not be just like everybody else, but you're not an other. And I think that's why one of the things I put a lot in my clutter thing I wrote was about reframing how I think of things. And the book that I'm reading right now is about wintering, the power of rest and retreat in difficult times, and how, maybe we valued, like, taking time away, taking 2 weeks, or wintering, or oh, go to the baths in England or whatever. And there's that allowance in society where it wasn't always about production. And so I think that, speaking to that balance of, I think what was it, Jamie? Was it Jamie or someone was saying to you, Heidi, about having that time away, taking that summer break and checking back in. And Jim said it as well, about balancing our time and, how we think, but also our physical space, everything balancing and just reframing. And sometimes it can feel like, oh, well, you've done 140 treatments and haven't found the right one, but look, you've got 140 down. Like, how many more are there to try? Anyway, I went on a while. I had a lot of scattered thoughts on the whole subject. So.
Oh, no, Diane, thank you very much. What you said was wonderful. It meant a lot.
Olivia, you need to go to dad, sweetie. Sorry, I want to respond. My house is a house with kids. Diane, I love that. And also, I want to encourage people that if you're feeling this clutter or overwhelm, to re-find this video on YouTube and watch yourself speak. And you'll, like, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, it'll be here. And, hopefully refill the cup if you feel a little empty, because there was some real wisdom and insight from everyone tonight. So thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Great. Great. Thank you, everybody. And remember, every other Thursday, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.